There we go.
Okay. So I'll mute you all. Mute all. Okay, Mandy, you can turn on your microphone, please. So
Right.
yes, so yeah, welcome
There we
back.
go.
But before we start this session, I would like let's greet first Mandy for her birthday because she celebrated her birthday. Say type in the chat box, happy birthday, Mandy.
I will not tell you how old I am, so don't ask.
Yeah, no worries. So please greet Mandy in the chat box, guys.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Oh yeah, they're coming.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
So we'll start now. So our first candidate would be Rolf.
Okay. Hello, Rolf. How are you?
I'll mute myself now.
Good evening here in the Philippines. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm trying to compose myself because I know that there are now about 30 audience.
30 audience members. Yeah.
Yes.
It's okay. They don't have their mics on, so they're not really here. So. All right.
Yes.
So let's get started with part one. So Rolf, what transport do you use, or what type of transportation?
Most of the time I use to have a private vehicle of my own because I work and at the same time I'm a student at present. So seldom that I use public transport. However, when I go to unfamiliar places, like for example, I want to travel, I would tend to also experience this kind of transportation.
Okay, good. And would you like to travel by bus in the future?
Absolutely. I think it's interesting to experience that because not only that we will be able to see the beauty of the metropolis, but we could also be able to experience how to be in a crowd.
Good, excellent. And do you prefer bus or metro to commute?
I would say that I prefer the metro because I think it is faster, it's more reliable, and it gives you this feeling that I think it's more safety when it comes to security issues.
Good. All right. So are you ready for part two?
Oh, I hope so.
Okay.
Yes, I will do my best.
All right. Okay. All right. So let me get my timer really quick. All right. So you're going to have a minute after I read this, and I'll let you know when the timer is done. Talk about a place where lots of people come together or came together. You should say, what is this place? When did you last go to such a place? And did you enjoy it, and why? And you can have a minute starting now. Okay. All right, so that is 1 minute, Rolf. And whenever you are ready, I can start the 2-minute timer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, I think I am ready.
Okay.
Well, in my existence, I have experienced tremendous festivities, not just locally, but in the whole country. In my country, specifically the Philippines, there are many occasions that I think people would go together as one, and this is called as community festivals. In my place, we have this annual celebration every 10th of February, wherein we could celebrate this so-called Pamulinawin Festival. It means that celebrating the essence of life and the beauty of nature and what people benefit from it. I was there last year with my friends and with other members of my family, and I was so delighted and excited, and I had that feeling of this full energy, not just because I was with them, but because of that festivities. In here, people would come together to showcase their talents, their products, and their commodities to the locals and also to the visiting people from other regions or from other parts of the world. It is an occasion wherein it showcases how the Filipinos are being resilient, sturdy, and fierce and hardworking people. It is in here wherein we acknowledge the beauty. What I meant to say, it is in here wherein we acknowledge how we appreciate our ancestors and the rich culture and history of the province. On top of that, the governor, uh, the head of the province would also tend to recognize these people who have contributed tremendously in the progress of the locality of a certain municipality or in the whole province. So
There's your timer. Sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off. Are you okay?
I did not. I was not able to get a good conclusion. I was
That's okay.
about
You
to
can
say.
go ahead and say your conclusion real quick. Go ahead and say it.
I was about to say, Mandy, that I am looking forward to attend again, but
Good.
because of this pandemic that we are experiencing, so I was not allowed because I work overseas.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good. Excellent. I'm sorry to cut you off, but yeah, you were getting really close to the conclusion, I could tell. And so you did a good job there. All right. Let's move on to part 3 really quickly. All right. So, what kind of places do business people like to visit?
In my perspective, business people have these hectic schedules in their lives, and one time I think that they would also want to change their daily routine. They could go fishing or just be closer to nature. I think that it's paramount for them to also have this kind of relaxation and be able to enjoy other field of life, not just for the challenges that they oversee or that they face in their day-to-day lives. I would suggest that people should have to spend their free time also to unwind themselves.
Good. Excellent. Okay. And why do people risk their lives to migrate to other countries?
In my honest opinion, I presume that they have to look up to and to the benefits that it gives when they decided to migrate to other countries. From my experience, I would say that I have to do this because certain countries, like for example, New Zealand, Australia, and United States, would appreciate and recognize our educational qualifications, which cannot be uh, given from my country or in the other parts of country, for example. I think that people would also want to try new things and experience new culture and tradition. And it does not necessarily mean to say that they will forget whatever nations they are origins or whatever nations they come from. But I think it is for them to evolve and to also develop themselves specifically. And of course, I'm thinking of what's ahead of them.
Okay, good. And do you think e-learning is effective?
You mean to say, ma'am, electronic learning? Is that what you
Mm-hmm.
meant to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, because there's a little glitch. Anyway, yes, absolutely, without a shadow of doubt. nowadays we are in this military era, and our opinions and our ideas has been transmogrified all over the years. I mean, we have come a long way, not just in our professions, but also in the way how we do things. Because of the advent of technology, it makes us to work more easier, efficient, and faster.
Good. And that, I want to go back to the question that I had before. Why do people risk their lives to migrate to other countries? And I forgot to add the ending part of it. Is it worth it, or is it worth the risk?
Absolutely, yes, because based from my observation, fellow Filipinos who migrate to other countries, I observe that they have their life become more convenient. They can send their children to universities. They can be able to attain good educational uh, qualifications because they were able to invest in education or in their healthcare. So I would say that it would make their life better. Generally speaking, it would make their life better, not just because of the opportunities that they can get, but of course also the things that they could also be able to learn, or the
Good.
knowledge that they can
That's okay. The knowledge that they can acquire, that they can
the
learn.
knowledge that they yes the knowledge that they can acquire from different cultures or from different race.
Good. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, and that concludes the speaking portion of your test. And I apologize, Rolf, for going back because I misread the question. But thank you for being so flexible with me.
Oh boy, it's okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for the opportunity
You're
to speak
welcome.
with you. I am really looking forward for this moment.
That's okay. I'm glad. I'm glad. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about part one. So I asked you what transportation or what type of transportation do you use? Would you like to travel by bus in the future? And do you prefer bus or metro to commute? You said most of the time I use to have a private vehicle of my own because I work and at the same time I'm a student. So right here, we're going to say most of the time I use a private vehicle or most of the time I have. Not I used to have, so I use it or I have it, whichever one you're going to choose. So just make sure you use one, because if you say I used to have, it sounds like you previously had a car and you don't now. So just make sure that you pick one of those verbs. But I do like how you gave sort of a reason there, because I work and at the same time. So at the same time is a good kind of, I'm losing my train of thought. It is a good, what are those things? Connector. There we go. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's a good thing to connect two ideas. So you did a good job there. I like that. And then I asked, would you, but then you also went on to say, so seldom, so that's a good way of using time. So it's not very often. So seldom you use public transport. You said, however, when I go to unfamiliar places, that is something that you do. So you did a good job there. You kind of transitioned, so seldom, and then you changed and said, however, when I do that. So you said that it is good to experience being in a crowd is one of the reasons that would be good to be on a bus. And then we talked about, would you like to travel by bus in the future? And you said, absolutely. I think it's interesting to experience that, because not only will we be able to, and then you went on to talk about some things. So right here, I'll ask Jeff to chime in. So you said not only will we be able to, so that's a good way to do a part 3 for more generalized, but I'm wondering if you should say not only will I be able to, since it's about you. But I
Yes,
do like the way you're speaking
I
kind
think
of in that hypothetical. Yeah.
I think it should be I, Mandy.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. And then do you prefer bus or metro to commute? And you said, I would say that I prefer the metro. It is faster. It gives you this feeling of it's more safety. So this sentence right here, it gives you this feeling of it's more safety. If you're going to say more, you want to say more safe, or
Okay.
or it is safer. So we don't usually say more safety. We say it's safer or it's more safe. Or it can just give you a feeling of safety. So you have 3 different ways that you can say it there. It just depends on what you're more comfortable with. And then, yeah, so that is part 1. And then on part 2, where I cut you off, talking about a place where lots of people come together or came together. You said, well, in my existence, I have experienced tremendous festivities, not only just locally, but in the whole country. So again, you're doing a good job about talking and using those connectors to bring more ideas in together. Some of the great vocabulary that you used, you talked about festivities, community festivals, you talked about locally and sort of national festivities. You talked about celebrating the essence of life and the beauty of nature, and how you said you have this feeling of full energy when you go to this festivity. You talked about showcasing and commodities, locals, regions, how the Filipinos are being resilient and hardworking people. So instead of saying how the Filipinos are being resilient and hardworking, just leave people off. So they are being resilient and hardworking, or they are hardworking and resilient people. So if you're adding being, you don't want to add people at the end. Okay. And then you also something I wanted to talk about where you said when you went to this festival, and I can't pronounce the name, but you did a good job of pronouncing it and then explaining what it was. You said, I had this feeling of full energy. I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but I think maybe a better way to say it might be I had this feeling where I was full of energy. So instead of full energy, I had this feeling where I was full of energy. So did you feel energized? Is that what you're maybe? Okay, good,
Yes.
excellent, good. Good. And then you said I was there last year, and I made a note right here that when you're talking about this, your voice and your expression and your intonation were really good. So you were talking about how it made you feel, and I could tell by the tone of your voice that this was something you enjoyed. And so you did a really good job on your intonation there. So I wanted to say good job there.
Thank you.
And then before I cut you off, you had a good way to conclude it. I was there last year, and I'm looking forward to attending. So this is a great strategy if you can definitely fit it in the time frame. So, I mean, everything that you said was pretty much answering the question, what is this place? When did you last go? Did you enjoy it, and why? So maybe you could just take out 1 or 2 of your specific examples, and then you would have time to add in your conclusion. But I think that just takes practice of learning what 2 minutes feels like without seeing a timer. So, okay, and let's move on. Oh, so some of the words I wanted to go over were annual. I'm going to put that in the chat. So can you pronounce ANNUAL? Annual.
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 Very good. So it's like I go to the beach annually.
Annually.
Yeah.
Annually.
Yeah, good. And about the word appreciate.
Appreciates.
Appreciate.
Appreciates.
Very good. And history.
History.
And governor.
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 Yeah, we say it really lazily. But yeah, you are saying that so you're saying governor, governor. We don't even pronounce that extra R really.
Okay.
So governor.
Governor.
Yeah, and contributed.
Contributed.
Good. So these were words that you didn't necessarily say wrong, Rolf. You just had the, what do we call that? The stress on a different part of the syllable. So I just wanted you to hear annual, appreciate, history, governor, contributed, where the stress goes on those words.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem. And then part 3, what kind of places do business people like to visit? So you said, in my perspective, or you could say from my perspective. So if you're going to say usually we say in my experience. If you're going to say perspective, usually we say from my perspective. And so anyone can correct me on that. It's just what I don't know why I know it. It just naturally know it. Probably because I've learned English my whole life. So, but from my perspective or in my experience, those would be the two different ways. So you said, from my perspective, business people have this hectic schedule in their lives. So I liked how you started here with kind of giving a generalized statement about business people as a group of people. And then you said they could go, you gave some examples of what they could do, where they could visit. They could go fishing just to be closer to nature. I think it's paramount for them to have this kind of relaxation. So you're doing good talking about the hypothetical. They could do this. They could do that. So I think that was great. And you said that they have a lot of things in their day-to-day lives. You said that it is something that they can do for relaxation. They can spend their free time. I think I did hear the word unwind, right? Did you say unwind?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so when you say unwind, just make sure you don't put anything after it. You don't have to unwind yourself, you just unwind. And so you don't have to say unwind themselves, because it makes you think that they're physically unwinding themselves. But they're not doing it, they're just unwinding. And then I asked you about, why do people risk their lives to migrate to other countries, and is it worth it? And here again, you said, in my honest opinion, I presume they have to look up the benefits that it gives when they decide to migrate or to immigrate to another country. And then you said, from my experience. So here, maybe some people can throw in the chat some other things that you, Rolf, could use at those discourse markers, those beginnings, instead of a lot of in my experience, in my opinion. So what are some other ways that he could say that? I mean, if I honestly look at it, you say most of the time, absolutely, in my existence, in my perspective, in my experience, in my opinion, absolutely, and absolutely. So it's not bad, but I just think there's more of them that you could use to give some variety. And you said, I think I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose track of what you were saying. Why do people risk their lives to migrate to other countries? So were you trying to say that they have to weigh the costs and the benefits of such a dangerous journey? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, I think so, because based on my observation with my countrymen, for example, they choose to go abroad because they, like, for example, they have just a lucrative salary way back home. Am I making sense?
Yeah, you're making sense. So I guess I just want to make sure that we somehow bring up the part about risking their lives to show that it's kind of dangerous. So it sounds like the reasons they do immigrate are to have a better life. And you said it's more convenient. You said they can invest in education and healthcare, generally speaking, not just because of the opportunities they can get, but also the knowledge they can acquire and they can attain. But is that worth the risk? So I want to make sure that when you're talking about it, that you try to use that word risk in some kind of form. It doesn't have to be risk, but you want to say danger or the peril that they face, or the separation from family, that loss of a support system, something about it being dangerous, rather than just saying the opportunities that they're receiving. Talk a little bit about, I know it doesn't say compare and contrast or show me the positives and negatives, but it sort of implies, why do people risk their lives and is it worth it? So we want to talk about, what is the risk? So for Filipinos, is it really dangerous for them to go to other countries? The only people that I can think right now, because I live in the United States and we have a wonderful election about to start, is these people in these in these sort of border towns that are risking their lives to travel for the hopes that they may get chosen to be able to be on the soil. So they're doing it illegally.
Yes.
So, but I mean, it's hard to talk about if you don't have that experience. So I don't know. Anyone else can chime in here on this? I don't want to tell Rolf that he's answering incorrectly, but I want to make sure that he's staying on topic.
Yes. Yes.
And that, again, that was my fault for messing up that question. So let's go to the e-learning, and then we can come back to that question on a good way to answer it. So I said, do you think e-learning is effective? And you said, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. We have come a long way, not just in our professions, but in also in the way that we do things. And I loved how you said, without a shadow of a doubt. That's a wonderful thing that you said. When you were talking about the immigration issue about New Zealand, Australia, and you said United States, just make sure you put the in front of United States. You did it when you talked about the Philippines, and you said also we were talking about whatever nations they originate. You said whatever countries they origin from, or so you can say their country of origin or whatever countries they originate from. So instead of just saying origin from, you would say originate from. Okay. So Jeff, can you chime in on this this
Yes, Mandy.
immigration question?
Well, actually, Mandy, you're correct because the question there is about illegal migration. So
Okay.
I don't know if Rolf has any idea because I think it's also happening in the Philippines when some of Filipinos, especially in southern part, they cross the border to Malaysia. So in that way, they're traveling by boat. So there's a risk. So I think this type of question it's not familiar with, or I don't know if Rolf has an idea.
Yeah, well, Rolf is, and everyone here is trying to migrate or to whatever they're trying to do. You're trying to do it through legal avenues. So maybe it's not even in your wheelhouse of expertise or your knowledge of what risks people take. All I know is here, the latest news story in the United States is 3 years ago, 500 children were separated from their parents because of the policy we have, and 3 years later, they still can't find their parents. So there's over 500 children living in the United States who have either never seen their parents in 3 years or were born here. And so this is a risk that those parents took. So if you want to speak about this one, you could say, well, let's just throw out an answer right here. Why do people risk their lives to migrate to other countries? And we're going to use some of your answers. You could say, this is a really interesting question. This is not something I have personal experience with. However, recently I read something, or I've heard about, the dangers that illegal immigrants face when they try to enter a country.
Cross the border.
Yeah, across the border, enter a country through not through, I'm not going to call it shady, but, illegal means. They face, well, at least the people in South America, they face extortion, they face kidnapping, they face separation from their family. However, they are looking at the risks and the benefits. Is it worth it for them to die to get their children to some place where they can have a better opportunity? Lots of them say yes. So, I mean, that's not really a good answer. That's just me talking to you. But this might be something that, and I don't know if it's come up, that you could find a news article on just to kind of get some information on. Like I've put into the chat before, and I can put it in here again, some daily news articles from NGU. And they're very good daily news articles. They're different levels, and they have very good vocabulary and good questions. Or you can even read, Jeff puts up an article every day as well. So, so let's see. Some people have some questions or some comments in here. So you can talk about North Korea as an example for, like Graceland said, their life is hard and isolated and restricted. They leave because of the possibility of racism. Graceland says citizens defect, so not deflect, but they defect in order to have access to better opportunities. They seek asylum is something that they do. So they go to oh gosh, they go to an embassy in their own country. So, like, if you would go to the U.S. embassy that's in the Philippines and say, "I'm seeking asylum. My life is in danger here," so that would be a kind of situation where you would do it. So, I'm sorry you had such a hard question, but you did a really good job. On all of
Thank you.
most of your pronunciation, you have really good vocabulary, excellent vocabulary here. I heard a lot of variety here. I didn't hear a lot of repetition, and I really, really liked your intonation and your voice on part 2. So good job there.
I would just like to ask
Yeah.
Ma'am Mandy, because yes, indeed, I admit that the migration is not really a familiar topic to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the question, what does it work? Does it worth the risk when people migrate? The thing that came into my mind would be there are times I think that it's not worth the risk because this may cause dispute from family relationship. The
Mm-hmm.
children might grow.
They could
The
lose
child,
their cultural
yes, they
identity.
could just yes. That's what I'm trying to say actually.
Yeah. So you can definitely go on the negative side. You can say, why do
Yes.
people risk their lives to migrate? Well, you can say, this is why they migrate. And the second part of the question that I messed up on, where it says, is it worth it? And you can say, in my honest
Mm-mm.
opinion, I don't think it's worth it. This is why I don't think it's worth it. They have the risk of being an outsider. They could face racism, which is very real.
Mm-mm.
They become separated from their support system, and they can lose their cultural identity. They can
Yes.
become, and for some people that has a really profound, not only physical effect but a mental effect on them, as
Yes.
you all as
Yes.
health professionals know. um,
Mm-mm.
so I mean, you look at what's going on in France right now, where you have
Uh-oh.
people who are immigrants, attacking other citizens, and you're wondering, would their life have been better if they stayed
Just to
where
stay
they
at
lived?
home.
So people
Yes.
flee for all different reasons. But yeah, is it always
Mm-mm.
worth the risk? I don't know.
Okay. Thank
But
you for the idea.
you can
Yes.
even answer that way. You can say, I honestly don't know if it's worth the risk. On the one hand, I feel these things are good, but on the other hand, I feel this is really detrimental, and also can be, where you have all these physical and financial gains. Here over on this side, you have all these mental deficits, things
Mm-mm.
that are really not good. And you don't
Mm-mm.
know until you have kind of looked further down the road about what's
Okay.
going to happen.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it a lot.
You're
Good.
welcome.
God bless you.
Definitely.
And yes, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You have questions,
Okay.
Rolf?
Yeah. Do you have
No
any
more,
questions?
sir. I have asked already the
Okay.
yes about the migration because I admit I'm not quite familiar to this kind of topic.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was
So
really surprised with
so
the
yeah.
question.
So our advice: you need to read or you need to watch news.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
noted, sir. Noted.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay.
Noted.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Our next Okay, Rob. Thank you. So
Thank you,
let's move on
sir.
to our next candidate, MD.